Well, here's a question I never thought that we would be asking. Should college players be able to go back to the NFL after declaring for the draft and working out with NFL players? I say no, but apparently I am in the minority, it seems. And so, the Big Ten today announced that they're not doing it. They're not going along with that. And I mean, that's good for the Big Ten. But what about the rest of college football? Because this seems like it'll make the SEC a powerhouse, right? You have a school like LSU that's willing to take in some of these players that don't make an NFL team. And, the SEC is already one of the power conferences anyway. So by the Big Ten saying no, but the SEC saying yes, it leaves the question on if this is like a balance of power that's shifting back to the SEC. Because these are, for all intents and purposes, at least attempted NFL players. Maybe they didn't make the roster and whatnot, they didn't make the cut, but they're attempting to become professional players. So they spent the summer working out with professionals. They spent the summer preparing for a lot of this. And to go back to college, I'm not against going back to college. That's, what I'm saying. For people who don't know, this is just strictly about sports. This isn't about going back to school and getting grades and whatnot. I'm going to always be cool with that. I'm always be for that. But this is about going back to school and playing for the football team. And again, this is after you've already declared for the draft and worked out with NFL teams, even possibly being, playing in a preseason game. Some of these cats played in preseason games. They were actually involved in trying to get literally signed to be professional. You don't make the cut, you go back to school. So this seems like the same thing that's happening with basketball. And I don't know if playing with professionals and working out with professionals, then going back to the school isn't, a type of advantage. I'm not saying it's a clear-cut advantage, but I don't know that it's not a type of advantage because, again, the level of workout, the level of play that you're playing with a professional league is different than college. And so this is 6-7 months of operating with the professionals. This is a few months of being there with the pros, and now you get a few pro tips, you get a few moments of pro experience, and you telling me you're now going back to college to play college players? I don't know. So I seen Lane Kiffin was speaking out about it, and he's actually defending it. And so I wanted to see what he had to say because, like I say, I'm against it. I just think this is a bad idea. These are people who declared for the draft. They've been playing grown men. They elevated their games up. We gonna just act like they didn't do that, and you go back to college and play with the college students? I don't know that that's 100, but let's see what Lane Kiffin has to say about it.
Made a decision to recruit some kids in the country. Through them winning their injunction and entry into the portal, they're available to recruit. At the end of the day, because of these rulings, they're either going to play for you or they're going to play somewhere else around the country.
So this is a significant story, and I wanted to put together the best group I could for it today, and we certainly did that. We got Paul Feinbaum, we got Dan Wetzel, pardon me, and we have Heather Dinich. Paul, I just want to quickly get your reaction to what Lane Kiffin, this was the first real comment we've heard from him. How did you think Lane Kiffin handled that yesterday?
I think he missed the boat. Agree. Kiffin's smart. He's crafty, but he should have said something that all college football fans will understand. Nobody wants to play for the Cleveland Browns. Everyone wants to play for the LSU Tigers. That would have worked. Instead, he tried to look down at his notes, something that the legal staff had written for him, and he wildly miffed. But there is no easy way to explain it, but that would have done the job.
Dan Wetzel,
I mean, I don't think there's a way to explain it. I don't think there's a way to make it sound okay or acceptable. I mean, I just think that there's going to be pushback for this regardless. And I think Lane Kiffin makes a legitimate point in saying, if I don't sign him, somebody else will. But that's why it needs to be a rule that says this just can't happen. Because if you just leave it open to certain schools and whatnot, yeah, the Big Ten may not sign any of the players, but let's say the Mountain West or the Sun Belt start signing all of these players. Like, it needs to be a uniform policy that goes across the board where it's not just the Big Ten or SEC, but really any conference. Like, you can't come back to college football after trying out for the NFL. Outside of a college football rule, it's a wash. Like I say, if they're going back to play, at Tulane, well, yeah, you might as well be able to sign them to South Carolina, Wake Forest, Vanderbilt. I mean, it's a lot of programs that are lower tier that could use that type of benefit. And so, I don't know. It's just a question of if someone like a Lane Kiffin can stand up and say no to the whole idea. So I'm saying, it's like, yeah, if another team gets it, they'll be able to play with them. But it's like the whole idea should be shot down because, again, the power conferences won't necessarily be the power conferences no more if people start going back to college, taking an NIL deal, and let's say they go to Boise State, they go to Utah, they go to North Dakota State, they go to some of these schools that are second tier on the cusp, but can even still make the college football playoffs through the group of 5. Like, there are schools that can use some of these almost NFL players that would change their programs tremendously. So you don't let no school do it. Because, again, if this happens at Ohio State, yeah, fam, you bringing in professionals damn near to play with the already number one team, right? The number one team in the country, and now they sign a player who was almost in the NFL. I don't know that that's okay. And then this other element where they're declaring the draft, they don't make it, but then you come back to school and you go to a different school. You don't even have to go to the school that you left. You can come back and sign to any school. I think that's a problem.
I've had people talk about this like the sky is falling. It's not the first time that I've heard that. I remember that when the transfer portal first became a thing and when NIL first became a thing. So how would you describe this particular moment that we find ourselves in collegiate sports?
Absurd and comically absurd at the exact same time. You can make cracks like Paul did. Look, this is probably a one-time issue. It's a one-year issue. And yes, it is crazy. We're signing off the Cleveland Browns back to college. It's a boomerang effect. But this is not going to probably be a widespread. And I say probably because we never thought we would get here. But this was somewhat predictable when last year we had players getting signed off, basketball players getting signed off G League teams in the season, European pro leagues, former NBA draft picks.
Yeah, and that happened, right? I remember that. But I don't know, maybe that's my fault, but I didn't see it as a whole sports thing. I didn't think that it would transfer into football, right? We did see it happen with basketball last year. We saw the conversation take off with basketball now. Football never came into play, but I guess we are talking college sports, so what would be the difference?
Eligibility is the number one problem that college athletics has. It is not in control of the system. It somehow needs to get to that, but it's not going to be a widespread thing. There's not going to be 100 guys coming back to college.
I want to read a statement, Heather, from the SEC yesterday. The SEC released a statement, and you can give us context. It said, college athletes, not former professional athletes, have been at the heart of the Southeastern Conference. Individuals who choose to leave college athletics, sign professional playing contracts, and compete professionally should not then be permitted to return to college competition. Allowing that to occur will blur the line between college and professional sports, create significant competitive equity concerns, and reduce opportunities for high school and current college athletes. College sports are for college athletes. The current confusion around national eligibility standards emphasizes the need to advance the Protect College Sports Act.
Yeah, okay. And it's still dangerous right there, though, because it doesn't really cover the issue, right? If you go back to college, you're still a college athlete, right? So I get that what they're saying is that college sports are for college athletes, but if you go back to college, then you would be a college athlete. So this really don't cover the entirety of the issue as far as I'm concerned. It kind of downplays what it is that's actually being challenged here. Like, the point is to make sure we understand that, yes, college sports are for college athletes, but if you leave college, can you come back and be a college athlete? I don't think this statement addresses that. I don't think this statement even begins to address the actual issue at hand, because once you get back to college, you're back in college. So you're a college athlete again.
Obviously, LSU is in the SEC. This was the SEC coming out with this statement. Heather, what should we be thinking?
Will you help me cross the border? Let me finish my drive first.
Oh, of course, yeah, we got commercials. Commercials now.
Come on, man. It's
Jeez,
before
I gotta
the smallest
hurry
class.
up and get my premium on this channel.
Rated
I can't do commercials. The commercials are so annoying. Multiple
Summer's
commercials.
here. Right now, get 0%
Wow.
financing for 5 years on all 2026 Silverado 1500 models.
Yeah, I ain't used to commercials. I'm at to
90
get my
days.
premium over here on this account. I'm definitely not used to commercials.
Well, we should be thinking that the very coaches who sit around all summer at media days and say we need hard and fast eligibility rules to follow are the very ones who are then saying, oh, look at this loophole. I can use it to get a tight end who I coached before and can help my offense. So while the SEC is asking the NCAA and the United States government for help to fight this, the coaches in their conference are saying, why don't you come on over here and play with me, because I can make a spot for you on my roster. Greeny, what's happening is having a trickle-down effect all the way to the high school level. And this has been Greg Sankey's point. You can't damage these other players on your roster who have invested 8 months all summer to play for you, and high school players who think they have a spot and 5 years to play for this one player who can't cut it, the pros.
I understand all the ways in which this sounds awful and probably is awful. And it's most certainly unfair to the people who are already there. But Dan Wetzel, there's one part of this I need you to help me understand. The distinction between professional athletes and non-professional athletes, right? They used to be called amateur athletes. So in the SEC statement here, they talk about players who have signed professional playing contracts. When you sign a contract to play for, let's just say LSU, and you sign a contract and they pay you $5 million, how is that different from signing a professional contract anywhere else?
Well, that's part of what the college athletics finds their problem when they go in front of a judge and they look at these things without the emotion of what we should be doing or what would be good or the feelings of this player or not. And that's why there's such a losing streak on these issues. Daquan Wright and these guys are going to make more money playing at LSU than they would have if they played at the Cleveland Browns. Certainly.
Right, NIL. And they're a hot commodity coming out of the NFL. So why wouldn't LSU offer them a little bit more money than the average NIL? Again, it's a storm brewing here that needs to be dealt with before it's too late.
If they had made the team, or maybe a practice squad or something like that. So there's a lot of incentive to come back. The line between these are already blurred. I think what Sankey and these guys would prefer and the commissioners would prefer is once you declare you are going to the pros, you renounce your ability to return to college athletics, and that would certainly create a little bit of an even playing field. Not every school can add guys this late. LSU's classes started yesterday. So at some point, and we can all laugh, there is supposed to be an education component, like how many days of class can you miss and still pass. I'll leave that to Paul. He might know better, but that's really the issue here is, are we going to turn into pro sports? We're just adding guys off the street in the middle of the season. It would on right leave LSU and go back to the pros if someone tries to call him up because he has a good first week on tape. Where is this? Is this purely my or something different?
Go ahead, Paul. Help me here. I mean, I just keep filling in blanks for me here. I find the whole thing endlessly fascinating. I can play your other sound bites. Let me play more. Oregon coach Dan Lanning. He had a different perspective yesterday, one that he believes protects the integrity of his current roster. Let's hear what he said.
I think there's a lot of negatives that are involved around this. One, once you go to the NFL, to me, you're in the NFL, you don't get the opportunity to come back. Two, most of us built our rosters and you have a limited roster limit now. So if you invited somebody back to your team, that means you're kicking somebody else off your team, right? That's your roster limits. I don't think that's players worked all summer, all spring, and put themselves in a position to be ready to work for a team. It used to be once you had.
Right. I mean, you have to factor that in. This isn't just, showing up and it's a spot already for you. You taking somebody else's spot. And we can almost assume that you're taking someone young spot. Somebody who has, just got there, hasn't had a chance to make their splash yet. And, for the most part, again, that would be the bigger issue is that person who's coming to LSU thinking that they're coming on scholarship that they earned, and they get there and you realize you won't even be playing now because somebody just came back from the NFL who's a better option, right? You might have been a 5-star recruit, but this dude was just out there with the Cleveland Browns. Didn't make the team, but he's better than maybe you would be playing from a college position. Therefore, they're more inclined to sign. I don't like this. It's really unfair.
An agent, or once you went and did the combine, or once you went to all those things qualified as you are no longer an amateur, you're a professional now once you declare for the draft. So to let any of those players come back, fair or unfair to them, it's unfair to the sport. And I think it's unfair to the players that are on current teams, for those guys to be coming back.
It's definitely unfair for them to be coming back. And like I say, for the most part, I haven't seen a lot about this yet. It's kind of getting off the ground now. It's one of those topics that's really just getting going, and it is, it's an L to be held here if they can't stop this. There's no reason that they should just be freely coming back to college football playing with college athletes. This isn't an even playing field. So again, once you've been determined to leave and you're no longer amateur, just like boxing, right? Can you go back to the Olympics after you fought a professional fight? Should you be able to go back to the Olympics after you fought a professional fight? I'm saying, of course not. I'm saying there has to be a limit in regard to leaving college and going to play pro sports, and then you just don't make it in pro sports. But I don't think you should be able to now go back to college and take and again, it might be a small amount. It may not be a whole lot of experience, but nonetheless, it is professional experience. If you go and you're working out with the Cleveland Browns in hopes to get a contract with them, you have professional experience. You played in a preseason game with a professional team, you have professional experience. And that should negate your opportunities to play college ball. And so I just wanted to discuss that real quick. Like I said, I got more and more things we'll be discussing on this channel, and I will be on this channel a lot more often. Early parlays start tomorrow as I begin to lay out my parlay picks and bets and whatnot for people who are, into that type of thing for you to benefit from. I certainly benefit from it. So I'm going to start getting some of my parlays and picks out. We got college football FCS starting Thursday. And so, I'll be here, fam. I'm here a lot more than I used to be. Something crazy is going on the other side of YouTube. And I don't even really want to deal with it no more. So you'll find me here. And that's that. So I do appreciate y'all coming as I try to get this channel off the ground. Thank you for supporting. Like, share, subscribe, and rock out with me as I try to grow this platform regarding sports. And like I said, I'm gonna be on here a lot more than I think people even think, but you won't see it until you see it. So I'll see y'all later. Thanks for coming.